here for the lunar eclipse in Sagittarius that's happening on July 4th here in the US. And it's happening, it's also Guru Purnima. It's a full moon lunar eclipse in Sagittarius. And it's also what's called Guru Purnima, which means the full moon. Purnima means full moon of the guru or of the teacher. Guru Purnima is like the most auspicious day of the year to worship your guru. And again, you know, worship can be a sort of dirty word for Americans. It just means to honor your teachers and teachings and actually get the message of what they are saying. Get the message. We hear messages all the time and we don't get the message. We don't listen to the teaching. We don't really sort of grok it, to use that word, where it really comes into us. So when the moon is full, we're also very full of our heart, emotions, mind, space. And this day with the full moon in, it's usually the full moon in Sagittarius. It's in the month of Ashad, but it's usually in the sign of Sagittarius, in the Rashi, is when we get the message from the guru. And so this is a very auspicious day on July 4th, this full moon in Sagittarius and Purva Ashada Nakshatra. So any teachings and teachers that you have, especially higher teachings like, again, things like astrology for sure, but even higher than that, even things like, meditation, spiritual practices, higher consciousness, things that take you beyond this world of, trying to figure out who you are and all that stuff that we're always preoccupied with. Any of those kinds of teachings and teachers, especially, that's the day to really honor them and put their teachings into practice. The best thing you can do with any teacher is to actually do what they say and actually try to practice what they're teaching, right? And nothing makes a teacher happier than to see their students are really applying it, trying to apply it, and, really on it. So that day, that full moon, July 4th, is Guru Purnima, and it's in the nakshatra of Purva Ashada. Purva Ashada means early victory, and it's the early victories that come through devotion. That's the simplest way to understand this section of Sagittarius. Of course, you know that Vedic astrology uses the sidereal zodiac, so the nakshatras and the rashis are aligned, Ashwini and Aries at the beginning. So when you do that, that means that by the time you get to 19 degrees of Sagittarius, you have the nakshatra of Purva Ashada there. It's sitting right there, right? It's not moving. The signs aren't moving with the nakshatras. So this means that each of the three, each sign has in it 3 nakshatras, and so that section of Sagittarius is the middle section where we have this section called Purva Ashada, which is ruled by the deity called Appas, which is the god of the ocean. And it's this god of devotion that we connect with so that those teachings in Sagittarius, which is ruled by Jupiter, come into the heart. So as you can see, I just started this ticker at the bottom, and this ticker is showing that there's a class on nakshatras that I'm teaching. I just put the link in the chat as well, and this is a class on nakshatras that I'm going to be teaching in a couple weeks, where you can learn each section and each zodiac sign as being a composite of the nakshatras. The first section of Sagittarius is Mula, which means to pull out by the roots, to uproot and plant new seeds. Then the second section of Sagittarius is called Purva Ashada, where we need to water those seeds and nurture those seeds. And how do we nurture them? Through love, devotion. This is why it's the god of the ocean, or the goddess of the ocean, called Appas. And that gives our early victories in life. Now just think about this. Think about your early victories in life. Your early victories come from how well you were nurtured. How important is your nurturing in the person that you are now? How much of a connection is there between the nurturing that you received as a child and the victories that you accomplish later in life? Is there any connection? Of course. So the Ashads show the early victory, Purva Ashad, and then the later victory, which shows how Sagittarius becomes Capricorn. That's Uttara Ashada, which are the later victories. So after the early victories of Purva Ashad, where we nurture those seeds, remember we planted seeds in Mula, now we have to nurture and water those seeds and care for them and give them love, just like a child is born. Then we have to nurture and care for that child and feed that child and be devoted to that child. So this section where we're getting this eclipse and where we're getting Guru Purnima is the devotional section where we need to be devoted to something. And however devoted we are, that's the early victory. That's the foundation upon which we can then go on to be victorious in a later sense. So let me give you an example as well. Because it is Guru Purnima, I actually have a lot of, students, and I do a lot of teaching. Those who really change and transform the most start by uprooting the old teachings, and then they plant the new seeds. Let's say they take my course, right? And I say, okay, now just listen to what I'm teaching. Don't try to make it out to be something else you've learned. Start over, pull that out by the roots, and just try these teachings for a while. And they'll plant new seeds. Let's say, especially like with my certification course. That's like planting deep seeds. Then I can give them, I can plant the seeds, but I can't make them nurture the seeds. I can try to nurture them and try to nurture their teachings. But at some point, they have to nurture those seeds. They have to be devoted to the teachings. Not necessarily to the teacher, but to the teachings. To the wisdom itself. However devoted they are to it, and they really learn it, and it goes into their heart, and they love it. However much of that they're doing is going to guarantee their later victories. It's going to show how much they can take that to the next level. Again, there's only so much that a teacher can do. A teacher can hopefully give you good teachings that go deep, but then there's a lot that you have to do, and a good teacher will be there to help you do it. And they'll help you do it through the whole thing, just like a good parent in this sense. So you look at how well your child was nurtured, or how well children were nurtured, which is Purva Ashada, and how much love and devotion and care was given. Sometimes it's not always gentle. Sometimes there has to be a little discipline there. Anybody who knows and who has an actual guru, a real teacher, knows sometimes it's hard to bear. They're not always your mommy, right? Sometimes they're your mommy, but other times they're more severe, and they're trying to help you learn. They're not trying to make you happy all the time. They want you to get it, right? And so, like with my guru Amma, she's like the divine mother, the hugging saint, but she's also like, boy, she's real. She's not trying to comfort you along so that you live a happy life and die a happy death. I mean, that's all part of it, but it's like, look, you're here to learn. You're here to wake up. That's who you are. And all your problems come because you don't know yourself. Now wake up, and here are things to do. And if you do them, great. And again, nothing pleases the guru better than to see the students doing what they say. So this is a huge time now. So this full moon eclipse on July 4th is just the collective. It's a great day, July 4th. Someone said, is it true for all signs? Yes, it's true for all signs. This isn't an individual's forecast. This is the prevailing sky that this is the event that we're all participating in. These forecasts are collective forecasts. Okay, this is what we're all kind of generally experiencing. We're all at this point. So of course, I'm not looking at anyone's individual chart or anyone's sign or whatever. So all of us, relative to your teachings and the things that you are, drawing inspiration from, and the things that you are, hoping will show you the light or what have you, all of those things are really up for grabs in the next few weeks. Or I'm sorry, well, it is actually the next few weeks even after the eclipse, but they should really be coming to a head right now. And what you're noticing, the pressure and the stress that you feel right now, is you're looking for answers. You're looking for guidance. You're looking for hope. You thought you understood something about this world. I thought the world was this, and it's not. My hopes are shattered. My hopes and dreams are shattered. I believed this, and now I don't know what to believe. I don't know what to think now. I don't know what to believe. That's the thing right now that is really important to understand as a prevailing principle. Candace said, sometimes you're their mommy and sometimes they're your daddy. I just thought that was an interesting comment, so I'm not going to elaborate, but okay. But yes, one of the biggest things that's happening collectively now is all of our illusions and delusions are getting shattered, because, and especially when we get around eclipses, we really feel it, because we have the nodal axis is in this eclipse right now, because the nodal axis, as you can see, is here. I'm sorry, it's in Gemini and Sagittarius. So we have Rahu in Gemini that just eclipsed the sun. That was the solar eclipse a couple weeks ago. Now we'll be having this opposite, which is the lunar eclipse. Now it is a wide orb and all that, but it's still an eclipse. You still have the moon very close to the nodal axis. And so we're really seeing this thing about we don't really know what to believe. We don't know what to believe now. And we're trying to really awaken from a lot of spin. We live in this age of spin. Those of you who've been following my forecasts for the last couple years or however long know that I've been saying this the whole time with Rahu and Gemini. Again, I keep talking about this because we come back to it all the time, especially when we get near eclipses. Anything that we're looking at collectively right now as a world is really getting drawn into this Rahu in Gemini. And again, it's helping things. It's a progressive, I don't mean that politically, but I mean it's to bring progress around certain issues, because Rahu does really well in Gemini in the sense that it's going to expose the truth. But then it's going to challenge our discrimination to see it, to see the truth. And so since Rahu went into Gemini last year, we've had all of these disclosures, all of this, especially we see it in the political world, we see it in the social world, we see it with governments around the earth, we see how we react to things, and we're seeing our beliefs and what we actually believe about the world. It's coming more into focus now than ever. All of the recent pressures that we've shared recently on a collective level, which include, of course, the COVID virus, really challenged us about what we believe about, our government or the world. Again, this and what we believe is going to make it go away, or what we believe made it happen. Some of us believe more in the conspiracy angle, that maybe it was genetically engineered. Some of us believe this. I said it when it first happened, that you'll notice the people who are always conspiratorial, be conspiratorial about this as well. We're just projecting all the time onto things. People that are generally trusting or generally thinking, okay, I think that's possible, but I'm not really sure, they're going to see it that way as well. We're always projecting. So again, when events and moments get really intense, our projections also get really intense. So since that happened, the end of February, early March, and since then, that's sort of both united us and polarized us around people that agree with us and people that don't agree with us. Of course, in the United States, it's turned into a big political issue about wearing a mask or not wearing a mask. And, in the United States, we've become the only country to have done something like this, where every other industrialized nation, every other sophisticated nation just handled it, understood that we need to bite the bullet, do the social distancing, wear the mask, just be sensible about it and get through it. We didn't do that in the US. We have an administration that didn't do that kept saying it'll just magically disappear and ridiculing people wearing masks, always saying we need to open before we were ready. And in the US, we opened before we were ready. As you see, the Europeans didn't, and the Australians and from all of the other industrialized countries. This doesn't even have Japan these are the Western countries. This doesn't even have like South Korea, Japan, which there's Japan. Sorry, you see they had a spike and then boom. So there's South Korea. Sorry, but you can see these other countries. They're like, okay, this isn't politics. This isn't right or left. This isn't, well, my liberty is at stake here, so I need to turn it into some big thing. No, this is what we did in the US. And now we're getting a resurgence of this, and also a resurgence of the ideologies, the ideologies that create this. And so again, we're very much seeing our figures that we believe in and the philosophies that we follow being brought into question. Who are we following, and why are we following them? Are we following, God's grace, Guru's grace, high teachings, high wisdom, being compassionate, caring, and really following what's beyond this earth first? Or is our whole thing being driven by, the external, and, thinking that, what's external is the only reality? When that's the case, there's a lot more fear. There's a lot more attachment. And, one of the things that I've definitely noticed, and we can see this, and again, it was talked about at the very beginning when these transits started a few years ago. I said that we were going to be feeling this kind of flood of data and information where by the end of it, we're not going to know what to think. And we're going to see that we're all just spinning out. There are two main issues that I've noticed the last few years, even before Rahu went into Gemini, but once it did and I pondered it, I said, this is going to be the big issue. Number one is we live in the post-factual world. We don't even agree upon facts anymore. We're questioning every fact. Now, we need to question facts. We need to question some facts for sure. In fact, we need to question everything, but I'm not talking about it on the level that you might think, and I'll explain it in a minute. But not only this post-factual world, but also this like anti-intellectualism, they kind of go hand in hand. And I'm just going to say, particularly like with the president we have in the United States, who is definitely anti-intellectual. I just mean, in as a matter of fact, doesn't trust scientists for, for COVID data or climate change or really pretty much anything. He's dismantled sciences and just doesn't trust science. I mean, seems like a crazy thing to say, but it's not an accusation. This is just a fact. He doesn't trust science. It's anti-intellectualism, post-factual. He trusts his gut. He trusts, I'm just going to call it fake, and that's it. And again, this has now permeated the US culture for sure. This anti-intellectualism, in fact, even hostility toward scientists, data, and all of that. Again, we can say, well, it's because they're wrong all the time. Look, we can go down that rabbit hole, which I'm not. I'm just going to acknowledge. But then the other thing is the extreme tribalism as a result. So tribal. We're all like, well, I used to be this way, now I'm that way. And the extremism, everything is extremes. I'll just give a typical example that we see everywhere now is those who used to be sort of hypnotized by the left. I'll say the left, even meaning like Obama and the left and the Democrat or something like that. That's that whole kind of thing. They thought, okay, this is what we're supposed to be doing. now realize, oh, that's a bunch of crap. So now I'm the right. Now it's, you know, Trump and QAnon and conspiracy, and just trading one trance and hypnosis for another, just kind of sort of vacillating back. Or again, you're already firmly entrenched in one camp and then just seeking confirmation bias to become more and more polarized toward your echo chamber. And then, you know, the other one as well, the right and the left. And again, so a lot of the sort of bugaboos that we have, and the sort of boogeymen that we've erected around this are things like mainstream media. Okay, we love to say, oh, the mainstream media is da da da. The mainstream media da da da. But I will say this now: all of this is, everything right now is mainstream media. YouTube, what you're doing right now, face it, at this point, this is mainstream media. Stop acting like mainstream media is only CNN and corporate TV media. That changed 10 years ago. Also, by the way, Fox News, which is one of the biggest purveyors of the mainstream media, will tell you blah, 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 blah. And people actually think Fox News isn't mainstream media. It's unbelievable. They're the most popular mainstream media, by the way. But everything is mainstream media now. Everything. Conspiracy theory websites, YouTube videos, YouTube experts, that's all mainstream at this point. Let's stop acting like it isn't. It is. It's all mainstream. Everybody does it. Everybody knows it's there. So this whole kind of mainstream media bubble that we're all kind of floating in, all of it is mainstream now because we have computers. We can kind of select whatever we want to affirm our biases, to double, triple, quadruple down on them. Or if something comes that kind of tweaks our imagination about, oh, maybe it's this, we can go find, you know, 15 YouTube experts, whether they're qualified or not. Again, we're in an anti-intellectual, post-factual world where I invent my own facts. I am a researcher, and we actually call this research. I do my own research. I watch YouTube videos. So now I'm also a researcher. Again, I'm not trying to ridicule people. I'm just calling this out. I'm more of a commentator. And yes, I have an angle about it, but this is what I see. I just see there's these two things, mainly this contempt for what would be called corporate media or mainstream media. Maybe that could be a delineation, is the corporate. But then also just blurring the lines between, maybe it's not corporate, but there's just as much of a possibility to be brainwashed and in trance and manipulated, or to not see the truth by a sort of corporate media on TV, as well as on a YouTube video. And particularly if you already have contempt for what we would call the mainstream media or the corporate media, if you already have contempt for that, then you're very much susceptible and ready to be entranced or brainwashed or manipulated or sucked into a YouTube conspiracy theory website vortex on that end of the mainstream. Again, to me, at this point, it's all mainstream because I don't see a big difference between the behaviors that are underneath it all. It's just ideologies. It's just polarized ideologies. And one of the things that I see happening with it is it's making us not even have a consensus reality. Like, we can see something happen right in front of us, and people will even disagree that it happened simply because it was on a mainstream media show. Just because it was on MSNBC or CNN or something, they're like, oh, you're just buying into mainstream media. Even something like, we have an outbreak of a disease. Oh, that's just fake news. Or we have this death toll of this disease. Oh, you're just buying into the media spin. Or the president said this. Oh, you're just, buying into, fake news or something. And again, to me, this is the kind of thing that's as much as anything more, I guess what you would say, Orwellian, isn't that that there's contentiousness, but that there's not even an agreement on what is a fact anymore. Even our own eyes. You see it with your own eyes and you just say it. And that's dismissed. Like, wait a minute, I'm not crazy. The man just said this. I'm not crazy. We just saw a black man beaten. It's not crazy. There's been slavery for 400 years. I'm not making that up. That's not like media spin. So, for example, even talking about issues like with, one of the things that's happening in the U.S. is a few things, also with the Black Lives Matter and this real progress that seems to be being made culturally around literally around dismantling the Confederacy and the, not just taking down statues, but also wanting to really move forward, hopefully, and collectively around things like this. Again, this isn't a right or left. This isn't media spin. This isn't, oh, you're just a Republican. Oh, you're just a Democrat. Oh, you're just a Republican. Slavery was real. It happened. Jim Crow happened. Civil rights, Reconstruction, all of this happened. It's not because it was on a mainstream media show. It's just buying into some liberal media spin or something. Now, again, what happens is usually these things come into our consciousness and then we vote one way or another, or we do this or that as a result. But at some point, even the fabric of what we're considering to be real is so contaminated or so tainted with, where we can just dismiss an entire thing like it never happened and say, oh, well, talking about this is just, buying into the spin, or just buying into the machine, or, buying into it all or something. So this is one of the things that I'm really noticing is this kind of, this is where so much of the confusion comes from. And it feels like a sort of gaslighting, and that we're all kind of doing a little bit, where we're not hearing what the other person says and trying to hear their point of view. And again, a lot of this, to get back to the chart here, is, trying to explain or showing this, sorry, make this bigger. Okay. This is this Jupiter in Sagittarius. Like, we don't know what to believe anymore. We don't know, like, what are we following? We have to question all of this. We all have to question it. We all have to question, why are we following this thing in response to as a kind of rebellion against the opposite thing that we were following before? This, especially K2 Sagittarius eclipse, I should say K2 Jupiter Sagittarius eclipse, is really showing in many ways, kind of, hopefully, if we're alert, the destruction of these false narratives, the destruction of these false beliefs. And I mean a belief like, I don't mean a belief in a specific piece of data. I mean the belief in, for example, the idea that we're so enlightened now because we're believing this thing now. Now, this is the thing. We need to question that. I've been watching this for quite a while now, especially since Rahu went into Gemini, and I've seen people, their memories are very short. I see people that 3 or 4 months ago, when there was like the Democratic primaries and stuff, they were as fervent on the left as it could possibly be. They were fervent about the left. Now that that's kind of blown up, now they're fervent against the left. It's just the same fervency. They're just, or whatever it might be. It's like just lurching between extremes. And to really, because our sacred cows keep getting kind of, blown up. So again, this is the Rahu in Gemini, Ketu in Sagittarius axis that we're going through as we're trying to navigate a kind of sort of post-factual world. First of all, one of the biggest things, like I said, about Rahu and Gemini is we're going to see the truth. And this is a big part of the truth. Or this is the truth. I don't like to ever say this is the truth because it's always fluid, but a big part of it is this is the world we live in now. And it's so fractured at this point, at least intellectually. It's not fractured physically yet. It's not. We're not at war. We're not killing each other. We're not having a civil war in the streets. And by the way, I don't think we're going to. I don't. I think when Rahu goes into Taurus, things are going to calm down. There's a lot that's coming. But right now we're seeing this, like, especially thought and our rhetoric and our beliefs And it's not just in the US, it's all around the world. I'm using the US as an example, but it's all around the world, most prominently in the US. And because the US is kind of, in many ways, the sort of leader of, quote, the free world, or whatever that might be, there's a lot of importance put on that. But this is in other countries as well, especially as other nations are, taking a, have a different sort of pecking order now. China is very much on the ascent, becoming much more aggressive. There's a lot of things happening globally, but I'm trying to speak about these things in general terms, as far as all around the world, the sort of rhetorical battle for the future is happening. And it's basically, again, it's kind of like two worldviews. We were going in a globalist worldview. There's another word, globalist, right? Where we come together as nations, where our economies become linked, where our, militaries get linked, where even things like our vaccines for, curing the world, and all of these big things getting merged together. And again, we're on the precipice of all of those big isms. From Bush to Obama, for example, in the US, it definitely became much more globalist, where Obama and the Democrats, even the Republicans before, though, they were very much about, especially free trade and whatnot. Underneath it all, it's money. Money is the big thing. There's no reason to invent conspiracy theories. We see the reason why. It's money. What's happened with the recent president is a turning away from that globalist perspective. And this, again, these are the battles that we're having globally, in fact, even. U.S. retreating from that, China filling that void. Again, there's a lot of ways we could take this, especially if you're talking about larger global themes, for example. But right now, again, these eclipses I'm trying to talk about in a larger context. What I'm seeing in the world is just these rhetorical battles and these extremes, and especially in a post-factual world where in some ways it seems to me like, or I don't want to say it as an absolute fact, but that we've lost a lot of discrimination, where people get so easily confused between experts who have researched something for 20 years or the person on YouTube saying, no, listen to me, with nothing, with really no evidence. Just a lot of opinions and a lot of theories about evidence. And at this point, we're like, well, I can't tell which is real, this or that. I don't know. And because I can relate more to this person, I like them more, so now I believe that. That's what we have now, or at least that's a big part of it. And I'm not necessarily even saying it's wrong. It sounds like I am, and I'm maybe denigrating it a little bit because, again, there are people and there are facts. We have to agree that there are facts. They still are there. By the way, it's one of the reasons why I start my videos telling you the fact about the zodiac, because that's also something that's came in where, again, people want to use another zodiac. That's fine, but you can't make up facts. We know what the Indians did. We know how the zodiac is laid out. There's no debate about it. You can have theories about other things, but you can't make up facts. That is what happened. And so everything being up for grabs all the time might sound great, but then, I made a statement earlier today when someone said, well, we have to question everything that comes from the government and the oligarchy and those in charge. We have to question it all. And I was like, yeah, but we also have to question, basically the inmates running the asylum is not much better than the overlords running the asylum. The overlords running the asylum, okay, we need to be careful, but the inmates running the asylum can be just as dangerous. They're both kind of dangerous. So these are some, overall themes to really contemplate on this full moon. And again, Purva Ashada, I talked about at the beginning, especially the qualities of the devotion, this quality of Sagittarius, which is about our beliefs. What do we believe? What do we believe collectively, individually? I've been talking a lot about the collective and the way I see this Gemini Sagittarius axis playing out, where Rahu in Gemini is trying to, what is the truth here? What are the facts? And then Ketu in Sagittarius is kind of rejecting our beliefs, finding new beliefs, and then even working through them, rejecting them, and just kind of lurching back and forth. We can really see the Gemini-Sagittarius axis here. And notice how the nodes have this dialogue going. It's not just a simple, oh, this is going to happen. Wherever the nodes are, there's this interplay. There's this interchange between the two nodes. It's a dialogue. And so, hang on a second. I'm going to take a little drink here. And so, again, one of the things that I'm really reminded of, and it's really just happened so much. Again, we have no consensus even on what we're seeing anymore. And it really reminds me of what was said in 1984, where the quote goes, "The party told you to reject the evidence of your eyes and ears. It was their final, most essential command." The party told you to reject the evidence of your eyes and ears. It was their final, most essential command. Once we've done that, what I just said, I didn't say it. This thing you're seeing, it's not really there. It's this thing here over there. It's a conspiracy. It's fake. So don't pay attention to it. All those people dying. Oh no, that's just there's masks or whatever it is. I definitely see it from that point of view. I don't see it from the other point of view. I see it from this point of view, especially because, and I'm just going to say it, especially like with the president of the US now, just he can say anything and then tell you he didn't say it. And 20% of the country just go, oh, that's just fake news. You're just CNN. You're just not care. Just like, I'm sorry, but that's dangerous. To have fealty to any, not just him, but anybody who had that kind of fealty to Obama or to anybody. Again, the fealty and the lack of discrimination is the problem. If it were a Democrat or Obama or this or that, I'd be saying the same thing. It's not this is where, like, to me, it's like the Orwellian part is clearly that. You don't need to think anymore. It's just like constantly saying, oh, and it's not just Trump, by the way. Pence comes out all the time now. Oh, we got it under control, under control. Have you seen the news, Mr. Vice President? But here's one of the things that I will say and that I will predict a little bit. Unfortunately, the COVID is going to keep getting worse here. We already have I think this sort of karma here is there's a trajectory that's going, and we already know, at least for a couple more weeks now, this is going to be tough. We see these cases rising, and it could be very, very, very dangerous. And I have a feeling that's what's going to happen, and it's already starting to happen, at least as far as what's happening with Trump is losing more and more support. And again, I know there are people just going to hate that I'm saying this, but I'm sorry, I'm going to say it anyway. But nothing but endless polls, polling data, and now Fox News polls, all is just, he's losing. I saw a thing, read a survey and an interview where they interviewed a bunch of people in Florida that were in that age group that he won like 62 to 35%. He's dropped like 15 points, even in a lot of people over 65. Independents, he's lost. It gets worse and worse. Now he's coming out. I mean, you can just literally see, even now, the last few days, at least the last week, the governor of Texas just instituted everybody wear masks. DeSantis in Florida, he's still, even him, who's a lapdog, but basically is saying wear masks, even though he's also, sort of backpedaling. But and even Trump had to say the other day, yeah, wear a mask. Finally. Okay, so you're saying it now. Do you remember ridiculing people for months? Again, so this has become a social statement. And we see the result of what happened, even with the wearing masks. This people following this ideology rather than science, because the rest of the world especially has been following the science, and they brought the curves down. We never brought it down. We opened too early. We had someone out there constantly saying open, 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 because they were worried about their numbers or whatever it is. So now we're in this, and I think this COVID is going to now, linger on, and I think it's going to also bring a deep financial hit. I think the financial hit is now going to be pretty hard. I don't think it would have been that hard before. And I made the prediction when it started that we're going to deal with this for a few months, and then we'll get over it, and then things will start to mellow out. It did for the rest of the world. It didn't for the U.S. And right now, again, this eclipse is happening. The planet Pluto is also right near Jupiter right now, and Jupiter is a planet of money, wealth, and I think at least the U.S. economy is going to get hit pretty hard by this. It might be even in a few months, but I think, in fact, I already know, because the checks that the government had sent out to people, I think they're expiring. I think they were giving monthly checks. Now they're about to stop the checks, and we're going to have to shut things down again with this spread. So again, this is really bad news for the U.S., and it's just isolated the U.S. in a lot of ways because of these, this practice and these policies, where something like wearing a mask is a social statement, a spiritual statement, a political statement. And we might see some, I don't know about total unrest, but we might see some frustrations over the weekend, over the 4th of July weekend, or even the next few weeks, as people who feel like it's an encroachment on their liberty to wear a mask, as they try to enforce these mask wearing laws or whatnot, or other things. So again, this K2 moon is, and also join Jupiter, shows the potential for explosiveness for sure. And especially around these ideologies. What else was something else popped in my head and it went out while I was talking. Hang on a second. Well, I'll just wrap up by going back to what I described in the beginning. Okay. I wanted to talk about what's happening socially, and certainly things that I've seen and trends that I've seen. And again, I hope in me saying some of these things, I'm not trying to ridicule anybody or trying to, anything like that. I enjoy watching videos and doing all this stuff. And I get into my, ways of doing things as well. I think we have to start looking at, especially these concepts that we have about, again, the media and, the corporate media, the mainstream media, the establishment media, in contrast to other kinds of media, and how they're not really that different. It's very simply just what you trust. And we already know older people tend to trust establishment media on TV and stuff like that. Younger people now, to them, their CNN is YouTube and a bunch of people that they follow. I mean, I know, I go, look, when people come and start harassing me especially on my YouTube channel, because I've said something about Trump and they don't like it, and they tell me how I'm brainwashed and all this stuff, I like to go look at their channel and see who they follow. And it's like the litany of right-wing social justice warriors. Again, social justice warrior is not just on the left. It's not. If you think it is, please go back and watch Pat Buchanan at the 1988 at the 1992 Republican Convention. He said there's a war for the heart of America. Social justice is not just a liberal cause. Please. It's not just left wing. This has been going on forever. But you'll go and see that it's just one person after the next, to them, that's mainstream. So keep these things in mind, and we all need to open our minds more. And I do listen. I listen to all of it. For example, There's a few of the left-wing, like for example, Dave Rubin, he's kind of in the middle. But Jordan Peterson, I mean, there's a few of them I don't really. Someone like Candace Owens, for example, she's not really regurgitating anything new. If I want to hear that kind of stuff, I'll listen to Louis Farrakhan or Malcolm X or something like that. Other black leaders, for example, that are conservatives. This is just conservatism. It's nothing new. Now it's dressed up with YouTube bomb throwers, at least a lot of it is, and this kind of new woke ethic that wraps it up in some kind of thing that seems to be new, but it's actually really not. It's conservatism, liberalism to some extent. It's all just kind of swirling around in a way where we used to at least agree on a consensus reality. And now it's kind of like so much of this swirling around. But I don't know. I find it very interesting, to be honest with you. It doesn't make me angry about what is happening. I think it's very interesting. It could be very damaging and very destructive. Like I said, we're not firing bombs at each other. We're not fighting each other in the streets. And I don't think it's going to get to that. But we're trying to work through this era that we're in where everybody has a voice that sounds good until we start to not have such good discrimination, perhaps. So this is, again, the last thing that I'll say, though, is that aside from all of that, it's Guru Purnima. It's a very, powerful portal through which to really connect to the heart, sink into the heart, honor your teachings and your gurus and the higher wisdom, and put those things into practice. Because underneath it all of this stuff that we're attached to and we're so defined by, we shouldn't be defining ourselves by any of this stuff. As far as the politics, and now I'm a Trumper, and I used to think Obama was this, now I'm this, now I'm that. You're not any of that. And there's nothing woke about it either. And again, I see this as, again, it's not to be critical, but I see people that are like, now I've walked away from this, now I'm that. And this whole thing, like, you're just trading one extreme for the other. There's nothing, it's not even, you'll regret that at some point. You'll wake up from that state of woke. You'll wake up from that woke at some point and be like, yeah, that wasn't it either. It wasn't it because none of it is it. None of this is it. And we used to really connect around culture. We used to really connect around things like music, and politics was just something, you kind of thought about once in a while, but now our whole identity revolves around this crap. This is one of the great laments that I have now. I'm a little bit older, that, even 20 years ago, certainly 30 years ago or whatever, we had great music and things that we came together, and our tribes revolved around things that were beautiful or that we thought were beautiful. They weren't just these ideas, these weird ideas of culture wars, these culture war ideas, which is what our tribalism is based on all of that. It's not even based on something like music or beauty or art or something that's actually worth coming together for. We don't have a collective, social fabric anymore where, again, think of the great music now. It's hard to even think of it. We don't have this great inspiration where we're all like, yeah, this is the thing. Yeah, these politicians, they're all like that. That's the way that is. No, now our whole identity revolves around that stuff. And it shouldn't. It's just going to lead to disappointment. It's going to lead to anger, frustration with other people. I saw that video of the couple that came out with the guns in their hands. I see this and it's just so sad. It's really sad because I know these people were scared, and I understand why they were scared, by the way. It would be scary. Okay, they live in a gated community, and these protesters walk through the gated community. They probably don't see a lot of black people, and I don't know, whatever their political affiliation is, but they've been mass hypnotized by the media that Antifa, black, they're going to get you. They're going to come in your house. They're going to do all this stuff. Again, these black people were walking down the street, but I can understand why these people were scared. I really can. Again, it was terrible to watch that. I don't think anybody wants to see anything like that. The man wasn't, it's just, why are we doing this stuff? It's really, we're in a very precarious time now where we're trying to see through all this. And I saw that man, I saw him, especially I think he went on 2 news shows, on Fox News and then on, I don't remember the other one. And again, he goes on Fox News and he's just given the floor where he didn't really have to answer for anything. He could just, say what he wanted. But then when he was questioned a little bit more on another show, you just saw the bias and the spin. It was all just spin. And this guy was in the spin. The news shows were on the spin. And underneath it all, it was someone who, I certainly don't believe this guy was a racist. I don't think he wanted to shoot anybody. I believe him when he said, yeah, he wants black people to have rights. Most of these issues that we're looking at right now, we all want to be healthy. We want the COVID to go away. We want black people to have rights. We all want the same thing. None of us wants to get mass vaccinated. We all want the same thing. We're just getting in these ridiculous silos and arguments and crazy polarizing where, again, this fact-free world where anything that we're thinking at the moment, oh, there's something that's going to confirm that. Well, at least it's not mainstream media or this or that. And then so we just wind up over it. So I hope it doesn't take a gigantic tragedy, and I hope it's not going to be COVID wrecking the entire economy to bring us together, because something will bring us together. And I hope it's not that. I hope it's not something like that, but it could be. It could be a very, very bad economic correction, because one of the things that happened is we floated about $6 trillion that we don't have in the US, I'm saying, to try to cover this thing, thinking that it would only be a few months. Okay, well now it's going to drag on God knows how long at this point. And these people aren't going to keep getting money. And we can't just keep floating credit forever. This could be a huge financial correction that happens. We have to be aware of. We have to be careful of. But again, I'm kind of jumping around a little bit here. But the last thing, again, just to understand that we have to take our in my view is to diffuse all of the drama around the stuff that's going on and really connect with our higher teachings, our higher wisdom, our gurus and teachers. And right now especially is a great time to be doing that. Is a great time to be connecting to the heart, connecting to, again, not just the emotions, but the higher wisdom. And that is mainly things like yoga, breath, meditation, things that make you healthy, make you strong and spiritual, beyond all of the mass media, and connect with beauty. Try to find ways to connect with people around something that's joyful and beautiful. That's what we used to do, actually. At least a lot more than we do now, I think. So this is what I have to say, and I've probably managed to piss off half of you, if not all of you. So there you go. So I hope that people heard what I said in the spirit it was intended. It's always, I could easily just make this and just bypass all of this and never talk about it and probably be more popular, but I feel like speaking about these things the way I see them, hoping, hopefully it'll be helpful for people to hear that. If not, and you were offended by anything I said, I do apologize, but this is what I do. So anyway, you all take care.